Episode: Assessing Opportunities, Part 1. Opportunities, differentiators, time boxes, and constrained resources. As I worked with developers and executives, it became clear how important it was to assess opportunities and developers. Although there are seemingly endless approaches, techniques, methods, and the like to find, assess, and engage with people and opportunities, I have found there are a few recurring things that should be in everyone's proverbial development and leadership tool bag. And so, here are some of the tidbits that I have learned while working with internal and external developers over the years. Since my early contracting years to my time at Electronic Arts, Fusion, and Microsoft Xbox. Here are some stories. Many apps and services have discrete, segregated features, or they deliver them over time in phases or staged releases. Some products offer additional, sometimes optional, downloadable content as another form of phased features or content, sometimes at a cost to the consumer. To determine and assess staged or phased features, services, or content, I have found it useful to use a whiteboard to visualize each release of an app or a service and assign a name to it. For example, when we were in Xbox Fitness, we had a weekly content release, which we referred to as trains. These would be equivalent to staged releases. We had a metaphorical locomotive of trains. They would leave our Microsoft Xbox Fitness train station weekly, releasing the updates in regions across the world hour on the hour, allowing a rollback should any region result in a functional or experiential failure or performance degradation. It was important for us to make sure that people never worked in the live retail space where consumers were playing. We needed phased ways to develop and test, and then release our weekly trains of content. We needed our team to modify and test software, content, and data changes separately from the product that was live in retail, that was in the consumer's hands, being used by our customers. And so we used 4 separate stages. Stage 1, development. That was active development site, app and service, source code, the build depot. It was the most raw thing the game team had. And then we had the test stage, which was for quality assurance, QA, and for producers to evaluate the builds for features, polish, quality. It was a snapshot of the app and service builds for QA to test. It was just a copy, like a snapshot, at any given moment out of the development build. Then there was the staging stage, which was for release candidates, or RCs. This is a QA test build that is intended to get approved, to be released, so it will be promoted to a staging, final release location to finally go out to the public. It was also a snapshot, but this time of the test build from the QA phase of testing. The retail data snapshot is taken from live data, so we know everything that was live from the consumers in that moment. It is replicated into our staging test site, so that people will actually be able to use real data and make sure the game and its builds and services work properly with real data in the wild. This is what we considered a deep test for a release candidate. And then finally, we had the retail stage. That's the live app and service living in the wild. This is where the active app and services are hosted, live. It is where real people use the software and the services. Once a staging release candidate is approved for release, the app and services would join the train to replace the live binary executables, local data and services, and live online data would be adjusted if necessary to support the new release. Of course, I always worried about and thus made sure there was proper protection for personally identifiable information, PII, financial information, monetary instrument information, aka payment information like credit cards, names, emails, phone numbers, passwords, all sorts of personal things. Hey, as an aside, when games sell a standalone game that can also connect to an online service, there are some rules about that. The publisher must defer a portion of the retail revenue to realize later after the service commitment has been fulfilled. They cannot declare the revenue as income governmentally until the online service commitment for that product has been completed. Therefore, most online service commitments are only 3 months long. They may vary, of course. The idea, though, is the actual product online duration is often buried in the pack-in materials or in some terms of service, in the app or online, which we all know very few people ever read. They just scroll or click through it. But again, the idea is that it only supports 3 months. In reality, most publishers will leave it for years, but they want to realize the revenue. And so, it only supports, officially, 3 months. Okay, back to looking at development and pursuing opportunities. Classic examples of staged development and assessment could be research and development, R&D, ideally with marketing's involvement, I will emphasize. Or it could be ideating, researching, and prototyping concepts or areas of interest or known opportunities. And there's always a third classic case of just phased scheduling. Pre-production, production, post-production, and publishing. As I worked with internal and external groups, more and more things kept surfacing that were valuable approaches, processes, or techniques. Here are just a few steps and techniques that I have used to assess opportunities and shape and drive development. I'm going to list some of the ideas that come to mind as I try to recall them. I will describe them in very high level because the detail would be too much in a podcast. Time boxes. I use time boxes with constrained resources and a defined completion finish line. 1. I would create schedules or ensure schedules were created with defined time boxes and formal available resources for the project to constrain and drive forward each stage of assessment, planning, and development. I would make sure they specified a block of time and set of resources for each stage or milestone. I would define key performance indicators, KPIs, if the assessment, planning, or development stage milestones would be extensive or especially complicated. If they span multiple teams, disciplines, products, or services, if they were mixing internal and external development, they needed some kind of key performance indicators. I would make sure there were defined metrics to measure for feature and product service experience and functional delivery and quality, to make sure it was customer grade quality and stable. It was important to avoid any task that was smaller than half a day, ideally not even less than 1 day. They should be grouped together if they were smaller tasks. And they should avoid any task larger than 5 days, ideally never more than just a few days. Key players. 2. It's important to determine who the key players are for a project. Who are the leaders or business owners? Who are the managers or product owners? Are there informal or formal team representatives? AKA, are there shop stewards that are highly influential? Are there product and development domain experts that are critical to the product? Are there outside stakeholders or investors? Any otherwise interested parties with power or influence over the product or business should be identified. Again, identify the owners and their methods to track product development, features, and quality. What done looks like. It's important to define what done looks like, aka what is completion? What does success look like? What is the finish line measured by? Provide a summary of the planned deliverables as proof of the experience or feature, product, service, functionality, or its polish being delivered. And what will be proven by its delivery? What will it actually really do? How good will it really be? How do you measure that? Define key success indicators, KSIs, for what completion and service evaluation will use. That way the team knows exactly what and how they will be measured. Using rubrics, metrics, KPIs, KSIs, telemetry, and analytics. Wherever possible, move ideation and schedules and most everything into some kind of measurable units, with a way to measure function, presentation, input control, and schedules. You can form waypoints, milestones, interim or final finish lines. Use rubrics, metrics, key performance and success indicators wherever you can. Collect telemetry from both products and tools, and use analytics to track progress and function and quality over time. Make your work objective. It will help everyone. Rubrics and metrics help everyone know what is expected and what success looks like. So please, use them. Use rubrics and metrics